Clock, so we're going to get going. Roll call, we have everybody in attendance. And I want to welcome Sherry Andrews to the board. Not your first time on the board, so welcome back. And now I'm excited for the opportunity to get to work with you. So welcome.
Great, thank you very much.
And I believe you know everybody at the table. You know Ken as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely.
Okay, really well.
Perfect. I believe you're from.
For him or for me?
Anyone have a declaration of pecuniary interest? No? Can we get confirmation of the agenda?
That the board confirms the agenda for the meeting of December 2024 as amended by adding the following items: board policies update and deputy chief of police crime charts.
I get a mover and a seconder? Pete and Mary, all those in favor? And that's carried. And previous minutes.
That the board adopts the minutes noting no errors or omissions.
I get a mover and a seconder? Sherry and Ken? Any issues with the previous minutes? No? All those in favor? All right, we're good. Now we're on to delegations. I'd like to welcome Dave Preston, who's going to speak to board policy updates. Right.
Okay, good. So the light's off, that means I'm on, right? Okay. It's great to be here. I know we've tried to meet a few times over the last few months, and oh, it's supposed to be on, sorry.
There we go.
Okay, we're on. Just a little background about myself. As I said, it's Dave Preston. I currently live, well, not currently, I guess I'm ending my, where I live up in Lions Head. I lived in Saugeen Shores, actually, Port Elgin for almost 30 years, and when I officially retired, I kept going further north. About my background as well, I started policing in Toronto. After 4 years, I went up to Port Elgin, and at that time it was Port Elgin. It was probably the same size as this service is right now. And then over the years, Southampton and Port Elgin actually amalgamated and became a police service called Southampton Port Elgin. And then we grew a little bit, and then eventually we took over Saugeen Township, OPP area, and then of course with amalgamation, those three communities got forced into being one and became Saugeen Shores. I spent 29 years at Saugeen Shores and retired as chief of police. I retired for 4 days from the police service and started a 2-year gig, as I thought it was, with the Ministry of Community Safety and Corrections at that time, now the Solicitor General. The 2 years turned into 10 years as a police service advisor. So I was as an advisor for that period. I was in Zone 5, I was in Zone 4 for a while, and then I did a lot of time up in Zone 1 and 1A as well as an advisor, which was a great place to work. So when I finally retired again, two small services, Hanover and Westgray, reached out to me and requested some assistance in doing a review and a revamp of all their procedures. So we embarked on that project and completed it, got everything in order the way it should be, and that led to Saugeen Shores coming on board. That led then to Owen Sound coming on board, and we formed a cooperative, I guess, for the lack of better words, Grey Bruce Police Services. So basically the cooperative was using me to manage, and mind you, the boards were involved as well, sorry. So that cooperative would use myself to handle all their policy or procedural developments. The beauty of it is, as the board will well know, when it comes to trying to save money, it was a substantial savings for me to do one policy or one procedure. The 4 services then would share my cost for actually doing that. That then at a small to mid-sized police chiefs meeting, the word got out what they were doing up in Grey Bruce, and long story short, I'm now doing 15 boards and 11 police services. And Kingston's sitting, I'm still debating whether I'm going to take them on or not. So Aylmer has become part of that group. So, and what that means is with the board as well, with the procedures, I'm doing what's required right now because of the new legislation that came in, but I'm also reviewing to make sure that everything's up to date where it should have been, as well as making the changes to address the new act. The advantage, again, as I've said, being part of the group going forward, well, one of the advantages of being part of the group now is the cost sharing that's passed on as we go forward. So once we're done addressing, for the board, addressing the new legislation, any changes or any work that you want me to do, that cost will be shared with the other boards. So to give an example, if I was to develop a governance policy for you, my normal fee would be $1,500. Now you take $1,500 and divide it by the number of services that are involved, and it creates to be a substantial savings. And the same thing applies to the police service. So there's a few catches to it, which I'll explain in a minute. So the state, what I'm doing right now for the board was a two-stage process. So I received your current policies from the deputy, and the first stage was to go over them and to make sure that everything that was required prior to April 1st, 24 was there. So basically to assure that your policies were in line with the former ministry sample board policy. I'm not sure if how many people will remember that, but under the old adequacy, the ministry actually gave you a template so that you could actually put these all together. Well, they didn't do that this time around. So that was the first step. So once I completed that, I moved on to the second stage. And the second stage was then to go through and make any changes to those existing policies that that are directly related to the changes to the CSPA. So basically, there's 85 policies that I've gone through, brought them up to date to where they should be, or in some cases they were up to date, but then have gone forward and made the changes where it should now say CSPA versus the PSA, or or business planning now is of course, that's changed, strategic planning. So that's one of your bigger changes to your policy. So I've done that. I've got drafts of all those. They're, and I'll explain what's on the USB here in a minute. But the other thing that I've done is, of course, when the CSPA came out, of course, it changed, obviously, but they also changed all the regulations as well. So there's numerous regulations that have been changed. And in some cases, they all have new numbers. They all have new names. In numerous cases, they've actually copied the old elements from some of the old regulations and kept them, and it just made it very confusing. But anyways, so one of the things that's on here, and you'll see it, is under the new regulation for adequate and effective policing. It really throws a lot of responsibility back to the board on having policy that directs the chief, and then reporting requirements to the board, publishing a lot of your policies and decision-making on the internet, all those kind of things. I've built that into all of them. So all your policies, if you have a requirement, it's in there. It'll tell you that this has to go on the internet. It's probably what you want to hear. So, and that's something I'm still working with the other boards to come up with a template that it's a one cheat sheet that they'll all be listed so you know. I'm not there yet, but I am getting on that. So that particular regulation basically sort of mirrored the former adequacy and the administration and infrastructure, crime prevention, law enforcement, maintaining public peace, assistance to victims of crime, additional police functions are built into it, and a bunch of other matters, reprovisions of policing functions, and that's a term you're going to hear. Functions is what seems to be the term that they're using. On top of that, we had, I'm not going to read them all, but there were some new, what I call critical new regulations that have come out. One, just to give you an example, one, conflict of interest, discipline, disclosure of personal information, disclosure of misconduct, which is the whistleblower. There's a new one out on investigations. There's a new major case management. There's quite a few of them. So that I've addressed in draft, and I continue to address. And once you receive or go through these, and I don't want to say approve, but go through them and everything's okay, then we'll finalize everything, and then from that point on, I'll continue to update you as required. So the USB I have with me today, inside, there's going to be a folder called Policing Functions, and that's all those things that I just spoke about, the administration. And it basically, it mirrors, it'll mirror the chief designate procedures as far as numbers. It mirrors the old numbers, your old numbers, LEs, AIs, so on and so forth. They've all been updated. So those are in there, and they have to be reviewed. And as I said before, everything's highlighted in blue, which is CSPA. There's also a second folder in there called counterterrorism. Again, that's something that hasn't really changed, except there is counterterrorism, but there isn't a stream incident policy that is on here that tells the chief to make sure that he has it, and he has it already. And then there's a third folder in there of draft policies, and there's 16 of them, and these are the brand new regulations, the new stuff that you have to have. And what I've been doing across the boards that I'm working with, they're all going under the term GP 001, GP 002 for general policies, so that down the road, if I continue to do work with you, or I can grab Gananoque's GP 001, it's going to be the same as yours, other than names and titles and things like that. So there's 16 of them there, and that could grow over time, because I keep finding things that we have to redevelop. Like, I'm working on a policy right now for shared services, which I've got that coming for you as well, that replaces the old, well, I hate to say it, but it may end up replacing the old framework of agreement, those type of things. So that's an example of what I'm working on, that even once you finalize all this, you're going to keep getting more. So the other thing that you'll find on there, which again is what I call a tracking sheet view. So it's in there, it's electronic, and basically it lists everything I've done. So it's got the new policies, it's got what the old policies were, what it's replacing, and then it tells you exactly what I've done. So it's all color-coded, so you can go through and you can see things I removed, things that haven't been removed. So it's not something that I suggest you may want to sit down and read it, but it's if you come across a particular policy and you're having a trouble understanding why I did what I did, you can go to this and have a look. So it's got it laid out. Now, there are a number of things that I did change. So that could be a helpful document. So, but you'll get that, and when we finalize everything, you will get another one, because I'm sure there's changes that I'll end up making. So the one thing I'm suggesting right now, when I give you the USB, you receive it as information. Don't pass it today. Like, you need to review it, go through it, and then get back to me and say, yep, we're good. And then I'll finalize everything, because along with the policies and procedures, another thing that you're going to receive is an archiving process. In my ministry days, that's always a problem that we ran into with both boards and police services, is having a proper archiving process. So there's an actual folder in there that mimics all your policies that you can go in, and there's a tracking sheet in each one, and when you make the changes, you can put the old one in there. You can fill out the tracking sheet and say exactly what happened. The other thing that you'll receive in the final USB will be an index, so a printed out index of each one, so that if heaven forbid, if you do want to print them all out and have hard copy, you could have an index for you, and it would be there. So, and an updated version of this if I do make any changes. So, I have only two quick questions. One of the things that I came across in a few places, and I removed it, and I just want to make sure it's okay, but there was references of using Saugeen Shores Canine Unit. They no longer exists, so as we speak, it doesn't exist. The dog's gone, the handler went to Bruce Power, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I removed that. I went back into the framework of agreement, OPP, that type of language, until we hear differently how that's going to work down the road. The other one was referencing to using West Grey Police Service as well, so I just want to make sure that I'm not removing stuff that there's some kind of a shared agreement that's going on, but that was listed 3 or 4 places. So we originally thought it was West Region, but last night I went in and looked again, and it definitely said West Grey Police Service. No. Well, they don't, and it's all related to traffic. They don't even have a traffic unit. They have, well, no, they don't, I don't think, no, they're level 2. Those guys haven't been retrained either. So anyways,
That might have been a mix-up in the actual wording, because a lot of the policies have been kind of shared amongst services, and then they forget to remove because.
Yes.
They forget to remove. It might have been Saugeen Shores with
Yeah.
West Grey, West Grey with.
well, I think the deputies found that in a couple of mine.
Yeah, because we use the Olin Sound as
Yeah.
the dispatch services,
Yep.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I figured. So I just, because in my advisor days, I actually came across procedures that had my name on it as a chief. So, but anyway, but I just, in case there was something that I wasn't aware of, so that's all been taken care of, and I've reverted back to the framework of agreement for the OPP as we know it right now. So, so that's basically all I wanted to really say and leave this. But are there any questions or concerns or let me backtrack. The one thing under the new legislation, you have to have some kind of a document on how you're going to run the police service, i.e., I'm calling it board governance. So I don't have that with you. If you want one, I can actually put one together based on what I'm doing for other services. So it runs from, and it includes all the new language and how you run your board meetings and the misconduct issues. And so although you do have separate procedures on that as well. But that's something the board can talk about. There's a few of them. I did include a couple of policies in there that weren't really directed to CSP, but I felt you should have them from a regulatory perspective, like accommodation, the accessibility, those ones. So they're on here. So I've included them as part of this package. One more thing that I wanted to say is, so based on my fee for service, this continues till April 1st, 2025. So anything that I do, as I continually just send you more stuff, it's all included in my original price. So then after that, the board can decide how they want to use me, if they want to use me as part of the cooperative. So that's kind of really all I wanted to say. If there are any questions or anything the board was thinking about that they might want from a policy perspective, I've got all kinds of examples and templates and different ones that I can put together pretty quick if there is something. And I have to-
With Section 19 agreements, are we, are you going to include that, like, as far as, like, I mean, our big go-to is the OPP, right?
Right.
Specialized services, but then we also use St. Thomas for certain things, right?
So what some of the other services have done already is, and that's the language that I was going to talk to you about, Stratford in particular, they've got a wording that I really like. It's shared services. I forget the whole lingo, but it's getting away from saying contract or framework agreement. Port Hope and Coburg have done the same thing with Durham Region. So the issue with the Section 19 or N14, that whole, when you reach out to get services to support whatever's going on, there's a process you have to go through.
Right.
So I'm going to be sending that procedure to you very soon.
Okay.
The board's going to get it once I finalize it as well, because I'm trying to get that one done right away for all the police services and the boards, so that you have that in place. Something happened somewhere where someone helped someone, and then the inspector general got upset that they weren't contacted to get approval and so on and so forth. So this will kind of lay out the process so that if you ever do have to get into that. But Chief, what you're talking about, we don't know yet. I haven't heard the advisors that I'm dealing with. Nobody's really telling them what the framework, if there's going to be a framework of agreement as we know it.
Yeah,
So-
concerns that I have is, like, I mean, if we're using St. Thomas, let's say for a spin team or whatever, and they're in our area, and Inspector General finds out about it.
Well, and that's a good example. So
Yeah.
that's a really good example. So, and off the top of my head, I got so many policies and procedures going through my head these days. Because this is a brand new one that I'm working in conjunction with Sarnia
Yeah.
to do, and then we're going to share it with
Okay.
the Q qual. But
I think that should be a priority right now.
it's going to be within, probably next week, I'll have board and the chiefs, because, yeah, it's one of the ones that we've identified. Yeah, that's a big one. There's another one too for the boards, but I can't think off the top of my head. As far as the boards, the chief's are already in the loop, so we send him stuff, he reviews it, it comes back, I finalize it, I send him another batch. And so that's happening, so the board should realize that, and he's actually into LEs now, which is, he's well into it, and so, and once you go through these, in theory, you'll have everything in place, and then once we say, yep, everything's good, I'll send you the final one, either bring it down or I'll courier it, and then the board can decide how they want to deal with it as far as putting it on the internet and that type of stuff. I'm not sure how many, I know some of the bigger services, or the boards of the GTA are starting to publish stuff online, but some of them have nothing. So it's kind of up in the air. Who's your advisor here?
Ron Leclerc.
Yeah, Ron, yeah. So, like, Ron, I'm sure will give you a heads up if things get to a point where they, I think right now what they're looking for is, especially from the board perspective, is that there's progress. That's what they want to see, that you can say yes. And if you mention my name, the advisors all know what I'm doing, so they'll know, because right now Port Hope's board's finished, Gananoqua's finished, Deep River's finished, Saugeen Shore's finished as far as this. They're still getting new stuff, but so they know it's happening, and they just want to make sure that there's progress being made, and so it takes time. I mean, 85, you got to read 85 policies here to go through them, and if it's your first time going through anything police related, it can be a little bit mind-boggling, and so, but especially with the new legislation. So, any other questions, Chuck?
Thank you. Dave, it sounds like you've been pretty successful with other services. Nice to see collective agreements and things. As far as the board goes, have you, considering it's share costing, if we get on board, have you provided any costing to us yet, to the board?
No.
And secondly, since we're doing it, it would almost be free, would it not?
Yeah, well, basically.
Just thought I'd give that a try.
Actually, it's funny. Your shared costing is based on the fact that the police service have already engaged me. So if I'm doing the police service, my fee for the board is $800. If I'm doing a board, so LaSalle, $1,500.
Okay.
So going forward, it's based on my workload, or I shouldn't say my workload. So if the board reaches out or the police service say, look, Dave, we want a policy on X, Y, and Z, can you handle that for you? I'll go, yep, no problem. I send out an email to all the other boards, because I know what they have and what they don't have, and see if they want to be part of it. So if they all want to be part of it, or if only half of them want to be part of it, so let's say 8 of them want to be part of whatever you've asked for, then the 8 of you share that.
You split the cost, whoever buys
Yeah.
into the,
Yeah, so to give an example, the boards that I've been working with for a while now, Owen Sound and Saugeen Shores, they're budgeting about $2,000 a year for over and above. And Saugeen Shores only spent about $800 last year, so, on over and above.
We already included the board on our policies. You're already taken care of.
okay.
Yeah, so your stuff is, it's going forward. Once we get, right now, everything from now to April 1st, unless you come to me and you say you want a governance, because that's over and above. But I can tell you right now, based on the 4 or 5 I've done already, I would share that cost with you, and you're probably looking at about maybe $100 or something like that. Because I had them done, and I just have to change names, and
Okay, thank you.
as long as I'm around, the price will be fairly reasonable, as long as we continue doing the shared costing, and so, but anyways. But that's a really good question, because it is different if I'm doing a board as a standalone, because it's harder for me, because when I have the boards, the police services stuff, I'm making sure that whatever I've got in yours, that the chief also has that.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right. Well, I want to thank you for making this a lot smoother than we anticipated 6 months ago, so. Yeah.
Well, we're.
Smoother on our part, maybe not on your
Yeah,
part.
Well, actually, I think I'm in good shape right now. Since they changed the new, if you go online now, got an index, kind of like 10 times easier finding stuff now, so the way it used to be. No, the big issue that the board's going to have to continue dealing with is the training, because you have all the training requirements, and I'm not sure where you are on all that, but there's that, and there was the latest one, I forget what they called it, but I know Owen Sound didn't like it. They did it, but they didn't like it. And Saugeen Shores are trying to do it, but anyways, there's that. So there are a lot of unknowns, but right now, the chiefs are keeping me up to date on everything that's happening, like the chiefs in the group. I get the all chiefs memos come to me as well, and so anything the OACP, the anti-racism thing, I'm working on that now too, so eventually I'll come out and share that with, actually that's the other one. So there is an anti-racism policy that the OACP are recommending boards adopt, and then the police service then have to come up with how they're gonna do it. So Owen Sound are taking the lead on it, and we're trying to come up with a policy, because it's hard for a mid-sized to small services to deal with a lot of these issues, especially the equity, inclusion, diversity, and all that. So we're trying to come up with a plan, a policy that addresses that, but also come up with a policy that addresses the anti-racism, but still fall within your capabilities of a small to mid. So, but stay tuned for that one.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Michelle, can we actually do a resolution to accept this information?
That the delegation from Dave Preston regarding board policies update be received for information.
Mover and seconder. Mary and Pete, all those in favor? All right. Thanks again, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, my wife's out there somewhere. She's trying to find a fabric shop somewhere. I don't know if you have one here in town, but she's looking.
I don't think
No, I
so.
think you have to go to St. Thomas for that. There might,
She may be there.
Oh.
She had her phone out when I left, so.
Yeah.
we have no unfinished, excuse me, unfinished business.
Mr. Chair, just a suggestion. I don't know whether you can do it or not. We're in a time constraint
Yeah.
this morning. Would it be appropriate or allowed to go into closed session, deal with that, and then come back? Is that appropriate?
Is everybody okay with doing that? I'm favorable for that, so. All right, Michelle, can we move, we'll just quickly do unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have none. We're going to move into closed session, and then when we come back, we'll go into the reports. All right?
All right. That the Police Service Board shall move into a meeting close to the public at 9:31 a.m. to consider Chair/Deputy Chief of Police personnel update, recruitment of Deputy Chief, and Chief of Police negotiations, and that consideration of these items is close to the public pursuant to Section 44(2)(b) and D of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, as amended, as the subject matter pertains to B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board, and D, labor relations or employee negotiations.
All right, mover and seconder? Ken, Sherry, all those in favor? I'm assuming Pete's hands up.
You work from home mostly or no?
I work from home.
Oh, that's perfect.
Good,
Good.
so I can come past
Okay,
you
we're-
every day.
We're coming out of closed, everyone.
That's awesome.
We're out of closed.
That the reports of the chief of police and chair be received for information, and that the board provided direction to the chief and the chair.
Can I get a mover and seconder? Ken? Mary? All those in favor? Okay, thank you, everyone. So now we're back to reports. Kyle, are you taking
I am.
reports today? All right.
Okay, monthly report through you, Mr. Chair. Month of November, we attended 5 community events. Our year-to-date, as you'll see, is nearly double what we did in 2023, so some good work going on there, and the chief and I have been quite active as well. Foot patrol continues to trend high, 42 hours for the month of November, putting us at 594. So again, that's another stat that we like to see that's trending up. Criminal investigations, SFST, we did 3 roadside SFSTs for the month. Criminal charges processed, 18 adults, 2 youths. 911 calls, 9. We did 25 assist other agencies. Violent crime, no sex assaults. 2 that met the threshold for violent crime for 100% clearance rate, which is excellent. And 1 SOR compliance check for the month. Property crime, we had 11 incidents for November, cleared 4 of them for 36% clearance rate, which again is well above the provincial average. Schools and school visits, we actually did 2 community service school visits, one with the Early Ontario Years Center at McGregor, and we're spending a lot more time back in East Elgin, which is pretty good, so. And actually, even today, we've got one of the officers doing a full-on presentation on human trafficking there too. So it's not quite back to where it was, but it's certainly going well.
Can they go in uniform?
They sure can.
Yeah.
Yep, regular police uniform, no issues, and
Do they have to be invited, Kyle, or?
yeah, this was a request directly from the principal to us. So.
Good.
Follow-ups, officers did 63 follow-ups for the month. Road safety, speeding tickets, traffic-related tickets, there were 72, 2 liquor tickets, and 8 others, which includes compulsory automobile insurance act. Ride programs were, now that we're in December, we're starting the festive ride campaign, so you'll see the officers out there more. Had 3 impaired drivers for the month of November. No use of force reports. Total prisoners processed in and out of the cell block, we had 8 males, 3 females, and 2 youths. 5 were held for court, and 9 were released by us on undertakings. We had 1 officer complete in-service training for the month of November, the annual in-service, and we had an officer away on 2 courses, specialized courses, for a total of 120 hours of training time. General information, calls for service as of the end of November were 8.16% up from 2023, so the volume is obviously trending upward, which is quite on par with most other police services. As I said, A and B platoon, annual block training, and impaired driver domestic. Our new officer, PC Kunders, solo patrols, that shift had 2 impaired drivers and a theft over 5,000. I attended the Fern Conference in the month of November, which was all to do with the new CSPA and discipline and procedures, which was pretty good. Chief and I covered the road several times, and the crime unit proceeded with some mobile surveillance training and C-24 training. Subject to any questions on that, that's the monthly report.
Not specifically, Mr. Chair, not specifically dealing with the report, but the blue license plates cannot be seen at night. Can the plate reader read them?
It can, actually, yeah.
Okay,
It
thank you.
does. They look terrible, but it finds them.
They got better eyes than we do.
I guess so.
Yeah, some of us. So violent crime for 2024 to date, we're at 68. Property crime incidents, we're at 134, which will probably put us very close to 2023 at the end. Drugs, there was none reported for the month of November. We're at 24. The thing with the drug charges is it's feast or famine, because generally it's one incident that then stems a whole lot of charges, but nothing individual in November. Domestics, we're at 55 for the year. Again, quite similar, on trend with 2023. MVCs, so far we're down. Save and accept that last week of snow that we had probably is going to put our numbers up for next month, but we're at 82 so far for the year. 911 calls, 118. This includes the 911 hangups and the missed dials as well. Foot patrol, 552.45. Mental health's actually way down, and I did look into that. Our follow-ups are actually quite high, so I attribute that more to kind of the back-end stuff that Abby's able to take care of, but the forward-facing mental health calls are down. And subject to any questions on the trends and comparisons, that's that report.
All right. We're good.
The budget?
Yep.
3, Mr. Chair. All things considered, we're sitting at 87% for the operating budget at the completion of November. Nothing really outside of the ordinary that we haven't briefed the board on before. Again, salary and wages, our part-time's up, but that was due to the coverage and the new hires that we were having to put in place. And looking ahead for this month, really we're in good shape, and the chief and I are back to somewhat of a normal schedule for December. So our training expenses, as we've said, obviously high. We've rectified that with kind of some better bucketing for 2025, given the trend that we saw there. Save and accept any questions. As I said, overall we're at 87%, so we're well on track, and the chief's forecasting a bit of a surplus.
How's the acceptance of the pickup by the officers?
I like it. I really like it. It's,
In what way?
it's never in the back lot.
How
No,
is it,
Bigger vehicle, more room, that's the biggest thing, and the screens are a lot bigger, the computer screen in it is a lot bigger, so a lot more accessible in terms of working out of the cruisers as opposed to having to come back to the office. You know, it's, in my opinion, that's probably your vehicle of the future, just because of the equipment that's required in there. So for the little extra money that is spent on those things, they're well worth the investment, I think.
A lot of other forces go in that direction as well.
Yeah.
it actually was cheaper than an SUV, was it not? $3,000?
It was. Yep, and it still is. The new pricings come out as well for the cooperative, and they're significantly cheaper, which is. But yeah, all things considered, I mean, obviously it's quite new. We've had no issues. It's stood up well so far and well received through the feedback and the comments. So. PSB budget. Can you scroll down to 222? Thank you. We're on track here. Really nothing out of the ordinary. The association fees are quite high compared to what we had forecasted, and that also has been rectified with Heather for 2025, just the way that things are going and the normal dues and fees. So all things considered, we're sitting at 93% on the Police Services Board budget. So we're still under, and knock on wood, I don't think we have anything really coming for December for the board. So subject to any questions, that's my report on the budget.
Any further questions? Nope. We get our resolution?
That the reports of the Deputy Chief of Police be received for information.
Mover and seconder, Sherry and Pete, all those in favor? And the motion's carried. Correspondence, any comments or feedback on correspondence? No? All right. That brings us to the end.
Okay. Got the board now adjourned at 10:20 a.m.
Okay, mover and seconder. Mary and Ken, all those in favor? And we're adjourned.
9 minutes.